In this video, we will show you how to replace your tailgate lock actuator on this Lincoln Navigator. This will be located behind the trim panel on your tailgate. Let's get into it. All right, friends, let's get started on our job. To gain access, we're going to have to remove some trim panels here. To remove this, I'll use a plastic trim tool, get underneath this area, and gently separate it from the tailgate. Remove your trim panel, set it aside. Now with the trim panel out of there, have a look at the tailgate. You'll find that you have 4 locking clips that need to be reattached to that trim panel. To remove these, we'll continue with our trim tool. In the center of it, you'll find that you have a little tab that you can gently pull down on and pull this out of the tailgate. That's what it looks like. Do the same to all. Now we can take each of those 4 clips and we'll put them in position on the trim panel. Looking at the clips, you'll see that you have 2 locking tabs. Those slide directly over the areas on the trim panel. We'll get this aligned and slide it into position. Once you have one on there, continue on and do the same to the rest. The next thing we'll do is continue on down near the latch. You'll find that you have 2 plastic push tabs. Use a trim tool to remove each of them. There's one, a quick inspection, and set it aside. Move along to your grab handle. You'll find that you have 2 Phillips head screws holding this in place. Remove the pair. Continue with your plastic trim tool and start removing the rear panel. Once you have that broken free with your trim tool, carefully get your fingers inside this area and separate it from the tailgate. Now let's have a look at the back side of that trim panel. You should find that you have a whole bunch of little tabs that look like this. They might be white or black. If you have any areas that look like this, that's an area that the push tab should be in. So if there's an area that's like this, that means you probably have a push tab that's still in the tailgate. If that's the case, make your way over to the tailgate and find it. So let's make our way over to the tailgate and remove these. We'll use our trim tool for this. Once you have all of them removed, make your way back over to the trim panel. We'll slide that into the trim panel and do the same to all. Continue on to removing your vapor barrier from the area. We'll carefully pull this down without breaking it because we will be reusing it. You only need to pull down the driver's side of this. Now I'll just tape this up here out of my way. With that out of the way, you have a clear view of where the door lock actuator is located. Let's make our way over to where the gray connector goes into the black area of the actuator. This will be easiest to remove using an angled pick. Take that and come in and behind the black area of the actuator, prying up against the locking tab on the connector. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and slide that out of position. We'll bring this out to where we can have a close look at it. You want to make sure you inspect this area for any funny colors. If you see any, it's corrosion and that would have to be dealt with. this looks fine. Set it aside. Now let's remove this rivet using a 3/8 drill bit. There we are. Now we can set this aside for now, and let's focus in this area. We're going to have to dislodge this from the rear tailgate assembly. Now to do this, there's going to be 3 green 8mm headed mounting screws that hold it in place. You'll find that this cable runs directly in front of it. Now on ours, it's already broken, but you want to be careful not to break yours. Carefully get underneath this area and gently pull it down and away. Once you've done that, you can swing it and then pull it up and out of this area. At this point, it's dislodged. Make sure it's still in good working order, and you can set that aside. Now we can remove our 3 8mm headed screws. At this point, we can move this around as needed. Let's pivot this and bring it down to a position that we can work with it. What we need to do here is on our actuator, you can see that this rod comes through, comes down at an angle, and then swoops over. That's how it locks into position. So we're going to have to take hold of this and pivot it as needed so we can pull the entire shaft out of this. Give it a little pivot, and slide it out of there. Now we can remove this from the vehicle. Now that we have this over at the bench, let's have a close look at it compared to our brand new actuator. You'll find that the original has a big old boot making its way all the way around it. We don't have to worry about removing that because if you were to look at the new actuator, you'll see that it also has a protective boot. Now what you'll also notice on the other one is it has a shaft that protrudes out of the end here. The new one does not. It comes with multiple. Find the one that matches up perfectly. You can see that this one has all the right angles. We'll take this and put it into position. Now when you do this, you want to pivot this around so you can see where the hole is. That's where the end of the shaft will go through. Once you've located that, if you were to look at the other side, you'll see that you have 2 ears. Those are the locking ears. So we'll take this and put it down in through that hole and lock it in with those 2 ears. Once you hear a click, give it a tug to make sure it's completely secured in place. Now let's get over to the vehicle. Let's get this into position. You remember as we removed the original, you're going to have to try to get this in and over this area. To do that, we'll come up and through here. We'll get it into position and bring it down and through. Once you feel as though you have that in the proper position, we'll continue on putting this back where it goes. Start in each of your 3 mounting bolts and then snug them up. Now let's have a look at the actuator. You can see that you have this little tab that comes out where the wiring harness is supposed to go. That goes facing away from you. So this will pretty much be sitting in this angle. Now we can continue on to our bracket. You can either rivet this in place or use a bolt with a nut. Let's come right through that center hole. The area that this bracket needs to sit on is this tab right here and the one directly on the other side. Let's get this into position. can be a little bit difficult to squeeze it over this. Sometimes you'll have to use your trim tool to spread the ears. There's one. You do the same on the other side. There we are. Now we can take this and put it in position. If you're using a bolt, slide that bolt right through its mounting point. If you're using a rivet, go ahead and line up your mounting holes and put the rivet through and lock it in position. Make sure that's nice and snug. Continue on to your wiring harness. Press that in, listen for a click, give it a tug to make sure it's completely secure. Let's reattach our cable. As I had mentioned, ours is already broken. It needs to be replaced, but typically there should be a groove right in this area. Now with that said, let's take the metal aspect of the cable, bring it up and over this area, and slide it into the locked position. Once you've done that, we'll tug on the plastic area and slide the groove up over these two ears. Should slide right in and lock into position. Continue on to reinstalling your vapor barrier. If it doesn't want to stick, just use a little bit of tape to hold it in place. Now we can start putting the trim panel back in place. As you do so, you're going to want to make sure that you come up this direction and then slide it down and over this area. Once you've done that, you can take the rest of the panel and swing it up into position after you've aligned all of your push tabs with their corresponding holes. Continue on to your two lower push tabs. Continue on to your grab handle. You'll find on this, you have the little hook that protrudes out. It fits into this squared out notch. Once you have it in place, go ahead and start in both of your mounting bolts and then snug them up. Make sure it's secure. Now we can continue on to our last trim panel. On this, you'll find a center area here that protrudes out. It should line up. Once you have that lined up, every other one of your locking tabs should line up with a corresponding hole. Let's take this and put it into position. Make sure it's secured all the way around. All right, let's test its functionality. The tailgate opens when it's unlocked. We'll press that lock button and test it locked. As you can tell, it functions perfectly. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.